Welcome back, Little Big Heroes, and in today's video I wanted to talk about some people's concerns if Dreams PS4 can actually be a mature and serious experience. If you like today's video, why not give us a like? If you're new to the channel, subscribe to become a Little Big Hero, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell to keep updated on all of the latest Dreams content. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I actually have a friend. He's a fellow YouTuber. His name is Zach Panther. He makes figure reviews and he's also going to be a big part of the Dreams community hopefully in the future, but he has his concerns about Dreams, and he also has very big concerns, and I wouldn't say hatred, but he certainly dislikes a lot of aspects about Little Big Planet, and that's what concerns him about Dreams, if it has the same sort of kid-like vibe. Now, thinking about it, a lot of people probably do dislike Little Big Planet for various reasons. Some people might think it's just a kid's game. Some people might think, oh, if I want to create something, I don't want to have to use wood and sponge and cardboard, you know, like a really simplistic thing. I don't think people actually realise that Little Big Planet is far more than just putting two planks of wood together. You can create some really stunning scenes. There's plenty out there, especially on YouTube. If you want to check it out, there's plenty of really good scenery that's been made in Little Big Planet, and plenty of gaming genres as well, which are utilised pretty well in Little Big Planet. I mean, it's got some limitations, but for me, it's the best user-created game there is at the moment. Until Dreams finally arrives, it is number one for me. It's disappointing when people dislike LBP for some of these aspects, but you know, I guess we can't all be on the same page, which is okay. You know, people like to create different things, and for Zach Panther in particular, he wants to make a more mature experience. Not necessarily just a violent experience, but he just wants to create his own human characters. He doesn't want to have to rely on Sackboy. He said maybe I could make a family-friendly movie that used a lot of Sackboys, and it would fit with the context of the movie, but if he wants to make something like Venom vs Carnage, he doesn't want to have to use Sackboys for that. He wants to create his realistic looking characters, which is something you can do in Dreams, thankfully. It's going to take a lot of work probably, but it's something that Little Big Planet lacks, and that I can understand. The thing about Dreams though, will it allow people to create these mature and serious films and games? Because if you think about Dreams, the way that it's been marketed so far, it looks very much like a child's game. Again, like Little Big Planet. Maybe not quite as much, because the mascot in Dreams, it's like a little imp, and he's not very prominent as Sackboy is. So you're basically just looking at the art style of Dreams, and you can see, yeah, it does look like a very artistic experience, but Media Molecule haven't really shown a really mature game or movie or level, simply because I don't think they can. If they want to keep the age rating as low as possible, they have to make a game that is pretty suitable for everyone to just pick up and play and create, which is perfectly understandable. They want everyone to experience Dreams. It doesn't have to just be a mature audience, it can be kids. It can be a family, it doesn't have to be adults only. So you're not really going to see that from Media Molecule themselves, but the community are certainly going to try their hand at creating a lot of mature experiences. Also, the moderation isn't very clear about this, so when they're talking about these mature experiences, how mature can we make our films and our games before it does get moderated? Now, naturally, you can assume some things, like if there's a lot of blood, a lot of gore, too much violence, if there's swearing, naturally these things will be removed. That much is obvious, but it's just how far can you go before they say, okay, this is just over the line? Because when you look at Little Big Planet levels, there is plenty of levels which use blood, which use gore, which use violence, but they don't get moderated, and there's no clear reason why they didn't get moderated, because they're clearly for a more adult audience. You know, if you see Sackboy, you know, getting totally destroyed by a chainsaw, you know, you would expect it to get moderated, but naturally most things don't get moderated. I think the most thing that would get moderated is basically just swear words. But the thing about Media Molecule is that it's clear they're looking for a low age rating, it's clear they're looking for this family friendly environment, but they have said, and they clearly stated this, that they wanted people to make horror projects. So they showed off a project from one of their Q Q&A sessions. Some creator created a first-person horror-like experience. I mean, it wasn't that terrifying or anything like that, but it's definitely something that people could expand on, and Media Molecule endorsed it. They want people to make horror projects, which is quite strange because wouldn't it get moderated if these horror projects go too far? That's the thing that Media Molecule need to address. Where is the line? If I made Outlast, for example, in Dreams, would that get moderated? If I take out all the gore and it's just simply the creepy atmosphere, you know, that panic, that fear, where you're always afraid, you're getting a lot of jump scares, the imagery is quite terrifying, would that get moderated? I really don't know. For me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to focus mostly on films, so if it does get moderated on Dreams, we at least stand a better chance on YouTube, because YouTube, sure, they like more family friendly things, but it's not quite as strict as it will be inside Dreams, or as it would have been inside Little Big Planet. And it's fair to say that the audience will be split in regards to mature and family friendly content. Some people will be perfectly happy to make family friendly content, but there's going to be a lot of people who want to make mature content. They don't want to be restricted to that sort of thing. Now, you don't have to go so extreme. You know, you can still make a mature experience, but you can be on borderline family friendly terms. There's some things that you can reduce, like I said, blood and the gore and the violence. If you can try and contain it a little bit, you can still make a mature experience. For example, if you wanted to make something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, you could make it technically, just don't show things that are too grotesque, don't show things that are too gory and bloody. You should be okay. At least I believe you should be okay, considering Media Molecule clearly stated that they want you to make horror projects. They can't really go back on their word, and so it's going to be quite a curious conversation in Media Molecule Towers if they're starting to see a lot of these horror experiences, and how they're going to address that if things do start to go a bit over the line. Personally, for us, we want to try and meet between both worlds. We want to try and make something that is mature, but at the same time it is sort of family friendly. So like I said, you have to tone down certain things. When we make games, we're not really going to use blood, we're not going to use gore, we're just going to make a fun game, but it's going to have a mature story, it's going to have sort of realistic environments and characters, but it's not going to go too far. However, there is a survival horror project which we want to make, and I was thinking a lot about it. How can I make that without getting moderated on the game? And again, there is no line, there's no way of really knowing how far we can go until people start to test the boundaries. For me personally, I was just going to create something like, if you think of something like Bloodborne, just take out the blood. You know, the game's just called Born now, but you know, a game called Born, it might be quite good, Jason Bourne. That's a good way to look at it. It's a very mature experience, it's a good game, it doesn't look like a kid's game, but it reduces a lot of the things which could make it go too far. And if they don't allow people to make mature games, it could really affect sales, because as I said, Zach Panther, he really wants to make something that is more mature. He doesn't want to make something that's kid friendly, and so if he's held back, that's going to really put him off, and it's probably going to put a lot of other people off as well who want to sort of make this mature content. We all like to make different things. We don't all want to make cartoony things or anime things. Some people want to make this realistic, mature content, and really they should be allowed to do it as long as they play within the rule set, but that rule set has to be defined by Media Molecule, and hopefully it doesn't take them too long to figure that out. But I really hope that a lot of people don't get moderated if they're very careful about what they do. And of course you always have YouTube, so you can get away with a bit more things. You could maybe put a more of a explicit version on YouTube because they have more controls in regards to that, whereas Dreams is very age orientated, so it's going to be quite difficult to get away with something like that. So if you're looking at more mature games, you've got examples like Dark Souls, Bloodborne as I mentioned, God of War, Detroit, Far Cry. You know, all of these games, you could definitely tone them down so that they can fit within Dreams, but you just have to make sure that you don't go too far. I think that's the main point here. But I don't want to make this video and just make it sound like, oh, Dreams has to be mainly for a mature audience, because I think that family friendly content is still valid. It's still great that we can create a wide variety of content in Dreams. It doesn't have to just be mature, it doesn't have to just be family friendly, it doesn't even have to be a mix of the two. You can make anything you want, but I think that mature will play a huge role because it's going to limit the type of people who are going to come into this game, and I think that's really important to address and to make everyone feel more comfortable and more confident in what they can create. So it's really just down to the user, the creator themselves. So what do you think about mature and serious content within Dreams? Do you think it has a place in Dreams, or do you think Dreams should remain more of a family-friendly environment? Do you have any mature content that you want to make yourself, whether it's a mature rated game or movie? Let us know down in the comments below. See you in the next Dreams video.